NASCAR is back, ladies and gentlemen, and let's just say some things never change. Grab a seat, join me in the scrutineering room, why don't you? I'm David Lawrence. Welcome to my recap of the Busch Light Clash. Alright, so the Busch Light Clash definitely took a crazy turn. Let's give you the whole timeline of how everything went down. Cars was due on track 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon for practice, heat races, and we were going to go with the Sunday program as normal. However, around 3:40 Saturday afternoon, all that changed. If you have not been familiar, rain was forecasted for the LA area all week long, and apparently that only got worse by Saturday. As a matter of fact, they were predicting 98% chance rain on Sunday, 80% Monday and Tuesday. If anyone in California just happens to come by this and I'm wrong, please forgive me in advance. But very high rain chances all the same. NASCAR, with the option of waiting this out till midweek, knowing you may not get an audience at all, or you got the weather, you got the track now, let's just go ahead and get it out the way. 3:40 Eastern, the word came out, NASCAR was moving the Clash to Saturday night. They were going to do away with the heat races, the last chance qualifier. Instead, we were going to get the 3 practice sessions as initially scheduled, and those 3 practices would set the grid for the Clash. And boy, those practice sessions started the fireworks off early. As you know, 13 of the 36 teams didn't make it. I'll just highlight the ones that did not make it. Defending runner-up Boston Dillon didn't make the show. Josh Berry, not surprisingly, the only SHR Mustang that didn't make the feature. Chris Buescher, shout out to his boss Brad K, made the feature on the 3rd time's the charm. Not so much for Chris. He unfortunately was one of the first 2 out. However, the biggest name to miss the feature is the man who's made the championship for the last 2 seasons. That's Christopher Bell in his Mobile 1 Toyota. According to him, he had some traffic issues, and then when Chase Elliott spun late in the practice, that all but killed his chances to make the big show. So, and then to make things even crazier, the one man guaranteed a seat in the race, Ryan Blaney, did not crack the top 22, and as a matter of fact, it was Bell, who was 23rd quickest, who had to sacrifice his spot in the feature, because Blaney, by rule, as the champion, is automatically guaranteed a spot as the highest ranked driver as the highest ranked driver from last year's points, not locked in, gets in the feature. So at least Blaney knew he was in the show. So with that being said, Blaney had to come from the back. Another guy who had to come from the back, Martin Truex Jr., had to start 19th for the big show. Couple of pleasant surprises. I think a lot of people are a little surprised to see Justin Haley make the field. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. fast enough to make the show. Again, I think that was a little surprising for people based off of his performances on the short tracks last year. Excuse me. And John Hunter Nemechek, the only Legacy Motor Club entry in the main event, as Eric Jones also failed to make the show. So Denny Hamlin, through the practice speeds, won the pole for the Clash. Joey Logano was starting alongside. Once they went green, first 70 laps went pretty key and peel, pretty tight, pretty green, not neat and tidy though. There was some banging and banging in the back, some close calls. However, we didn't get our first yellow until lap 70. Todd Gilliland, both of the front row cars made the feature. Todd Gilliland spinning out and had a spin, bring out the first yellow of bring out the first yellow. Of course, caution laps didn't count in here at the Clash, so basically everyone patted around for a little bit. We went back green right on the last lap of the first half of the race. John Hunter Nemechek collided with Corey LaJoie, sent the 42 around, and that brought up the second yellow. They did have one lap. Joey Logano held on. He led at halftime. Funny little incident happened during halftime, but I'll get back to that a little bit later. After the restart, things started to get a little chippy. Bubba Wallace found him. Chase Elliott spun first. However, he managed to keep it going, kept it green, but only for about 10 seconds. Bubba Wallace ended up on the wrong end of the ricochet. Alex Bowman got too deep into Tyler Reddick, sent Reddick into Bubba, and then Ross Chastain nowhere to go. So about a 4, maybe a 5 car setup there for the third yellow of the day. And then shortly thereafter, another yellow with Ross spinning out himself in turn 2. After that yellow, though, the race did get a rhythm. Ty Gibbs was definitely the dominant factor of the second half of the race. Led most of his race high 84 laps in the second half. And it was looking really good, about to give him the gold medal crown the champ, but then things took a turn. Lap 141, Ross Chastain once again involved, this time after hitting the wall, ricocheted into Michael McDowell, sending him into the wall. His Mustang damaged, and he went into the little infield they have there at the Coliseum. That ended his night. On the restart, this is when the fireworks really began. Ty Gibbs, off the restart, sent it high into Joey Logano. Logano has nowhere to go but heading towards the wall. Didn't hit the wall per se, but that did send Logano back. I think he got as far back as 6th at that point. But on the inside of both of them comes the pole man. Denny Hamlin took the lead. However, he was not quite done yet. However, he wasn't out of the woods yet either. As we came to 2 laps to go. As we came to the white flag, as we came to the white flag, Ty Gibbs, unfortunately, his night went from bad to worse after leading so much of the second half. He found himself on the wrong end of a spin. Kyle Larson getting in, but I think he had some help with Bubba Wallace. Not the last time you'll hear those 2 names mentioned in this show. So that set up a green-white checkered. By this point, Kyle Busch had worked his way up to 2nd. And while Busch did take the inside on the choose on the final restart, hoping to get one little good look at Denny. Denny had probably the restart of his life. Got a great launch, and while he did give a little bit of a door to Kyle, Hamlin had the runoff too, held off the field, and as Hamlin came to collect the checkers, Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace collide one final time, and that's how this puppy ended. Denny Hamlin takes his 4th win in the Clash, his first in LA, to go with his 3 wins at Daytona. And Hamlin beating out Kyle Busch. And remember I said Ryan Blaney had to start at the back of the field? He came to finish 3rd in this Clash. 3rd. That's just how crazy that night was. Oh boy. So let's get to some of the. So I said some things never changed at the very beginning. Let's get to some of these altercations. I want to start the halftime break. During the break, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets out of his 47 car. Shout out to Cheerios coming back. We love to see those lovely O's on the car again. He goes down and has a word with John Hunter Nemechek. And if I remember the video correctly, he goes to his car, takes down his window net and goes inside the car to have a conversation. Then some of the Legacy Motor Club crew that was down in the infield, they were like, hey, what's going on down here, guys? Break it up. Let's keep it moving. So a little bit of an interesting tidbit there, and little did we know that was just the beginning of all the altercations that was about to come about, because post-race there was plenty of them. Bubba's so distraught and trying to keep his cool, he just drove the car right up the tunnel and didn't even finish the final lap. Got credit, last car on the lap. Bubba, by the way, finished 12th. Larson did finish 5th. However, they were just the first. Post-race, Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick got together. Very interesting indeed. As they were heading for the tunnel, I think it was Chastain. I think Reddick spun Chastain on the cooldown lap. So didn't hear too much of that. Didn't hear too much past that, but apparently he and Tyler Reddick had a few altercations that evening. Tyler not the happiest afterwards. Neither was Michael McDowell. He and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a very prolonged conversation down in the infield post race before their cars went back up the tunnel. However, the one beefing duo from the night that got everybody's attention post race was Ty Gibbs and Joey Logano. I mentioned it on that restart on that 141. Ty Gibbs sent it into turn 1 very hot. And doing so, he locked it up, sent Logano up the track with nowhere to go. And safe to say, the two-time series champ did not take that move from the 23-year-old well at all. Excuse me, from the 21-year-old at all. And yeah, post-race, Joey paid Ty a nice little visit to the Monster Energy hauler. And they had a good little argument right in front of everybody for the cameras to see. And in post race, by the way, Joey did clamber through all that, got a 4th place finish out of it all. But talking to Lee Spencer, who was doing post race interview for SiriusXM, when Lee asked Joey about Ty, Joey by no means was impressed and basically went back to the reputation Ty had gained in the Xfinity series about how aggressive he was and unapologetic. So safe to say Ty has woken up a few of the demons on that one and has not quite beaten that one yet. So we'll see if this becomes one of those huge rivalries that we get to see throughout the season, but safe to say I think there might be a little bit more to come from this. The veterans usually do always win out in a case like this, so we will see how this goes heading into the Daytona 500 in a couple of weeks. So that's basically the scope of the race. My opinion on it, well, let me start with this. My opinion on the day itself. I give NASCAR a lot of credit for making the call they did, and I understand where fans come from. Very last minute, very last notice, but it was the right call to make. And people are going to ask, hey, why didn't NASCAR do this longer? Let me say this first and foremost. I don't work for NASCAR. I'm not an advocate for NASCAR. I am a fan. This is just a fan's opinion. But I will say this, and I am very objective about it. Going into the week, there was rain forecasted for Sunday. However, when teams left Thursday and Friday, when the rain was there on Thursday, as people were starting to arrive, the chances of rain were not as great as what they would have been as the weekend progressed. It was about 70% chance, but there was still a window, even as late as Friday night that I think we could possibly get this in on Sunday if everything plays out. However, by Saturday morning, that window had blown all the way up. Rain chances had increased to absolute 100%, even beyond that to an extent. And it wasn't even the fact that there wouldn't be a window, it was the idea that it's going to rain the entire day and that there is going to be next to no chance. And that's what really got NASCAR's mind. On Saturday, it was just like there really was no chance. That's part one. Part two was the fact that we're not going to get a chance to do this on Monday. We may not even get a chance Tuesday. The first window after Saturday to possibly get the race in was Wednesday. And keep in mind, you're going to have 23 teams in Los Angeles through Wednesday. That means they'll stay to Wednesday. They'll leave probably Wednesday night. The truck drivers have about a 2 to 3 day trek to get back to North Carolina. And think about it, that would be what? Saturday, Sunday? Daytona 500 qualifying's Wednesday night. And you're asking the truck drive, and I'm not going to say forget the teams, but spare a thought for these truck drivers who have to drive cross country. Hopefully some of them did get out today. Hopefully they did get out last night before the weather got bad. But spare a thought for those drivers. These guys and most teams sent 2 drivers per truck. Not 2 drivers for 2 cars, 2 drivers for each transporter, because this is such an arduous journey cross country and back. So you really have to think about everybody in this ecosystem. Granted, fans, I understand that it was a last minute call, 4 hours notice. And for as much of a notice, I think the crowd was about as good as you could hope for, given it last minute. And remember, and I'm a little surprised there weren't more people there, considering Saturday was already free anyway. And then they decided to make the race itself free. But I do commend NASCAR. This was the right decision. It was the right call. And no, in the moment we may not think it was, but yes. Credit to Steve O'Donnell and the crew that made that put their heads together and say, hey, Saturday is going to be our best shot for a while. We have to think about the rest of our community. We have to think about the rest of the teams and the crews, because if we stayed, again, Daytona, for the Daytona 500, remember, you don't just go down there on Friday. These guys these trucks travel on Tuesday, if not Monday, to get to Daytona, because remember, you're there for Daytona, you're there the whole week. While on-track action doesn't start till Wednesday, you're there the whole week. Cars will probably start rolling in Monday night. By Tuesday, everybody will be there. And then you have all the festivities for Speed Week beginning on Wednesday in earnest. So for everyone, especially considering this will be the last, especially considering next Sunday will be the last Sunday in the Cup Garage, these teams will have off until July 28th. When you put all of that together, this really was NASCAR's best option. And to be fair, and I do give NASCAR credit for this as well, they did say anyone who bought a ticket for Sunday, they will receive full refunds. Those who paid for parking will also receive refunds on those as well. So I do give NASCAR, LA Coliseum, and everyone that worked with them a hell of amount of credit to make sure we're sorry, we really tried, but it just wasn't plausible to get it in. Sunday was not going to work. So I do commend NASCAR on that, and I want to say that first and foremost before I go into any other critique. But with that being said, the race itself, it had its moments of action. I know some people are upset. They want to send the race back to Daytona. Some people say, hey, go back to the Coliseum. I think the race definitely needs something different. I'm not on this, oh, let's just go back to Daytona bandwagon. I'm not. Because honestly, I like the uniqueness of what the Coliseum has brought to the Clash. I like how they've done this podium ceremony at the end. I like how they light up the flame like it's the Olympic Games. I like how they, I like how we during the halftime breaks, and we're making it interesting. We're making it something to be a part of. I won't go too big into the exclusivity on this episode, but we can work out who's in, who's out. But for the record, I did like the fact that nothing's guaranteed. We have that 36 weeks out the year. We got these same 36 cars. We'll see them every week. No one goes home. But I do enjoy the fact that at least for this race and the All-Star race, nothing's guaranteed. Just because you're here doesn't mean you're going to race in the big show. And I do like that. I do like what the Coliseum's brought. I understand. It's been 3 years and maybe time to do something different. But I actually like the format and the style of the event. I like the little quirkiness because, hey, you only get it one time a year, people. We're not doing this every week. So, hey, liven up. Enjoy it a little. But with that being said, the race itself was not too bad. It's banging and banging. It's a quarter-mile short track. It's a spectacle. It's supposed to be fun. Tempers flared up. Is it the side-by-side banging down right to the line finish we expect? No. But was the race really that bad? No, not really. Shoot, we saw a lot of even for all things expected, we saw a good amount of passing on that little quarter-mile short track Saturday night. Only 7 yellows, less than half of what we had last year, so definitely taking those 4 cars out definitely made a huge difference. Definitely did some good for the show. But again, was it the best Clash? No. Was it the worst Clash? No. I think the race wasn't that bad. I don't think the race was that bad. You got storylines, you got headlines. Like I said, at the end of the day, it all ended with Denny Hamlin from the pole, and that was no red herring. He was very competitive on the front half of the first half of the Clash. When he took the pole, he led early. I want to say it was right before. I want to say it was a little before the first yellow. He was starting to get caught. I want to say Ty Gibbs, but then Joey Logano had the lead for a while at halftime. Had the lead at halftime, left for a little bit after that. But then Ty Gibbs started to take over for the majority of the second half of the race. And while the night didn't end the way it did, you gotta give Ty Gibbs a little bit of love for taking the race by the neck. And if Michael McDowell and Ross Chastain don't collide, we're definitely telling a different story. Ty Gibbs becoming the latest driver to earn his first ever NASCAR Cup win in the Clash for 4 points win. It really came that close, and ironically, Denny was the last to do it, but I digress. But I do want to give Ty Gibbs his due and a really good, solid run for him. Before everything broke out, Bubba looked pretty racy. He was as high as 5th. As a matter of fact, coming to the, I think on the white flag lap, he passed Larson for 5th, but then, of course, he got looped by Kyle. Martin Truex Jr. was another one. Started 19th, got as high as 3rd. I want to say he ended the night 7th. Trying to remember this off the top of my head, so forgive me if I was wrong on that one. But great run by those two guys, by him and Ryan Blaney as well, because Blaney absolutely had to do a blitzkrieg through the field to get to the front. Also want to give an attaboy to Rick Ware Racing, Justin Haley making the field, showing that Rick Ware might make some surprises this year. So definitely make sure you look at those guys if you want to look for a little bit of an underdog. Shout out to Front Row, both of their cars in the show. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be no surprise to them, but I think a lot of people expected McDowell. Ty Gillen sneaking in there was quite surprising to a few. I think it's safe to say. I don't think even in the short time before, I don't think Ty Gillen's name was going to be in a lot of people's 23 card grid if the race was going to be held on Sunday anyway. So give a call to that 38 Front Row team for getting in the field as well. Definitely a big boost for them. Like I said, 3 of the 4 SHR cars made it. Saw Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece was in there. Noah Gregson made it, however, struggled a lot during the night. However, I think there's going to be brighter days ahead for that team, and I think getting 3 of the 4 in definitely did a world of good for SHR, especially considering how so many people were talking about them coming into this season, especially after the year they had last year. So with that being said, that's gonna kind of wrap it up for the Busch Light Clash. Crazy timeline of events, not the day any of us expected, but the Clash is the Clash. We did get it in. And one name, and before I do finish, I will say there was one other name I missed, and that's Daniel Suarez. While he was attempting to qualify for both the Busch Light Clash and the NASCAR Mexico Series, for those who were not familiar, the NASCAR Mexico Series was going to play support race for the Busch Light Clash. In Spanish, as is prerequisite, it was going to be called the King Taco Battle at the Coliseum for the NASCAR Mexico Cities. For the sake of me not embarrassing myself, I will not try to do the Spanish translation. I think I might, you know what, never mind, I'll give it a try. La Patilla en el Coliseo. There we go. I think I might have got it. But NASCAR Mexico Series was on the support bill, a first for the Clash since the race moved to LA. And Daniel Suarez was going to attempt to qualify for both. However, he failed to make it. He failed to make the Clash feature. But fortunately for Daniel, that was as low as the night got, because after the Clash, they did have the Mexico Series race. They also did 150 laps, and Daniel Suarez emerged as the winner. So it wasn't a complete wash of a night. Congrats to Daniel on his win in the NASCAR Mexico Series battle at the Coliseum, La Patilla. So with that being said, now I've reached the end of this recap of the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. And hey, stay tuned. I got plenty more where this came from. And by the way, I tackle any and every topic. I'm talking about Formula One, IndyCar, IMSA, even sim racing. So stay tuned. I got plenty more. But with that being said, I'm David Lawrence. Thanks for coming inside the Scrutineering room with me. I will see you next time, and until then, keep a smile on your head, keep a smile on your face, folks, because trust me, you're much better when you have it on. So long, everyone. Bye-bye.